Welcome to episode 330 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Meyers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing Alan Trezza. I interviewed him a few years ago on the podcast in episode number 83, so have a listen to that episode if you haven't already heard it, as he gives his backstory and kind of how he broke into the industry in that episode. This week, we're going to be talking about his latest project and how all that came together, a film called We Summon the Darkness. So stay tuned for that interview. The SYS six-figure screenplay contest is now open for submissions. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/contest. The early bird discount runs through May 31st. The idea for this contest was simple: find the best low-budget scripts and present them to the industry. I'm defining low budget as less than $1 million US. In other words, a screenplay that could be produced on six figures or less. If you have any questions about how to figure out the budget of your screenplay, I created a video which you can find on the landing page, which will help you estimate your budget. Here's how it's going to work. Every submission will get read by at least 3 professional readers. These are readers I have hired to read the scripts in the first round. Each reader will give each script a quick assessment, which you can actually purchase if you'd like to see these and get a quick bit of feedback on your script. Then the scripts that stand out from the first round will move into the second round, where I will disseminate the scripts out to the industry judges based on those judges' genre preferences. The industry judges will grade the scripts, and then we will choose the winners from the ones that stand out. We're giving away thousands in cash and prizes to the winners. I've lined up about 40 industry pros as judges. They're listed on the contest page with links to their IMDb pages. These are real filmmakers who are making movies, and the reason many of these folks are willing to be judges and read scripts is because they're hoping to find material for themselves to produce. So again, another great way just to get your material in front of producers. Once again, if this sounds like something you'd like to learn or perhaps even enter, just go to www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/contest. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking or sharing it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 330. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks, along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide. I'll teach you how to write a professional logline and query letter, and how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I'm interviewing screenwriter Alan Trezza. Here is the interview. Welcome, Alan, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today.
Thanks so much, Ashley. I'm very happy to be here.
So you were on the show a couple of years ago in episode number 83. In that episode, we got into kind of how you got started in the business and worked your way up to bearing the X film was one we were talking about. So I'm going to refer people back to that. Check out episode 83. And I think today we'll talk primarily about your new film, We Summon the Darkness, starring Johnny Knoxville and Alexandra Daddario. To start out, maybe you can give us a quick pitch or logline for this film. What is this film all about?
Yeah, so We Summon the Darkness takes place in the late 80s around what was known as the Satanic Panic. That was when church groups and certain government officials got it in their heads that the devil was speaking to children through everything from heavy metal music to role-playing board games to Saturday morning cartoons. So our film takes place in that milieu where there's this paranoia going around, and 3 girls are on the road going to a heavy metal concert, and all throughout their journey they hear on the radio panic-inspired murders that are occurring. They brush it off and they go to the heavy metal concert where they meet 3 guys. They hit it off, they go back to one of the girls' homes to keep the party going, and that's when darkness falls, let's just say.
I gotcha. Where did this idea come from? What was the seed or sort of the genesis of this story?
So after we had made Burying the X, I wanted to write something that I really wanted to stick in the marketplace. A lot of screenwriters, myself included, make the mistake of trying to chase the marketplace. What I mean by that is they try to sell a script that they think Hollywood is going to buy for like a lot of money. You know, they're going to try to write the next Avengers film or the next Christopher Nolan film. And I wanted to do the exact opposite with that. I wanted to write that I really just wanted to be the first in line to see. And I sat down at my dining room table where I write all my screenplays and just started to write a list of things that I would want to, watch or get excited by. And I started to write about a time in my life in the late 80s. I was a heavy metal drummer during that time period. And I remember having to have a lot of aggravating conversations with people who thought that my friends and I worshiped the devil because we listened to King Diamond. And the irony of that is that it wasn't our minds being poisoned by the music, it was their minds being poisoned by the religious right.
Huh. Yeah. So let's dig into your writing process just a little bit, and we can use this one as kind of the example. How long did it take you to outline this film, and then how long did it take you to actually write the script once you got done with the outline?
This one was one of the faster scripts. It took about somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks, and that was because I wanted the script to have a sense of urgency, excitement, and the film takes place. So I wanted to just keep the fire that was inside me burning, so to speak. So I would often stay up very, very late, sometimes until 2:30 a.m., the following morning at maybe 6 a.m., and just keep writing, and hoping that I would get this sense of excitement through the words. So very, very fast, 4 to 6 weeks. That includes, treatment, outline, and the entire script, which was about maybe 90 pages in length.
Yeah. Okay, so as you're developing this idea, are you talking to your managers, agents, other writer friends, producers, directors? Are you starting to just see if there's some interest in the idea? And then maybe talk a little bit about getting notes. Once you are through this 4 to 6 weeks, you have a first draft. What does your development process look like from that point on?
Yeah, I actually kept this one very, very close to the vest because I didn't think that anyone else would be excited about it. I didn't think anyone else would really care, to tell you the truth. I was simply writing this for myself. I had never done that before. I have since done that and have had other sort of great success writing films that I get excited about and then about them as well. But this one I kept very, very close to the vest. Actually, I wasn't thinking about sharing it with anyone because when I was finished with it, I said, well, that's something I want to, I'm not sure if anyone else is going to want to see it. But I had a lunch with a producer named Christian Amajita, and Christian has done numerous sort of independent horror thriller films, and he knows this milieu. And when we met, I still remember he showed up for our lunch wearing a Faith No More T-shirt, and I said, okay, this guy's kind of cool. And just the more we spoke, the more we figured that we had the same taste. So at the end of the lunch, I said, you know what, I got this crazy screenplay. I don't think anyone's going to really dig it or even buy it, but it takes place in the 80s. It's about heavy metal. It's about satanic murders. Let me know what you think. I emailed it to Chris. 3 days later, he called back and basically was like, I'm in. This thing was great. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah. So that started off the journey of getting it made.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that journey then a little bit. How long from this point where he comes on as the producer, he loves the material, to actually getting into that first day of principal photography, how long did that take? And maybe you can give us some ins and outs of that journey.
Oh, yeah. It was a long and perilous journey, shall we say. But not as long as Burying the X took. I would say from my lunch with Christian until we were on day one, it was a little over 2 years, I would say, maybe 2.5. There were a lot of false starts. We went through a whole slew of directors. I think the tally was 5 directors in total. And that's actually like having very fruitful meetings with them attached for months at a time, only to have them drop out or leave because of personal reasons. So it was a very, very tumultuous journey to get this thing up and running. But everyone that came in contact with it shared this really sort of honest sense of excitement for the material and wanting to see this. And the multitude of directors that we had hired and then later had to part ways with, they would always say, "I'm sorry it didn't work out. I'm going to be the first person in line to see this thing, and I hope you get it made." So it really had this sort of cult following, even just as a screenplay. So yeah, it was a very, very long and very.
What were the notes that Christian had, and how did you address those?
Christian had some very minor notes, but they were important in the overall sort of scheme of the film. He really wanted to delve deep into who it was exactly that were committing these murders, and can we really sort of bring these people that are doing it sort of more to the forefront and examine how they just really make clear what their modus operandi is. And I get too specific because really big twists and turns. But Christian was very adamant about making it exactly clear who these people are and why it is they're doing what they're doing.
Gotcha. What's your connection to Alexandra Daddario? I noticed she was in Bearing the X. Was that, did you guys share an agent or manager or something, or it's just a coincidence that she was in your previous film as well?
Alexandra, yes, was in my first film, Bearing the X, and this was before True Detective. She was in Baywatch, and before she was in San Andreas, and all those big sort of high-profile projects. I had only known Alexandra because I had seen the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D and thought she was the best thing about that movie. And on day one of Burying, everybody on set was completely blown away and knew that she was going to be a huge star. I also knew that she was capable of doing a lot more than what she was required to do in Baywatch or San Andreas. And I really wanted to tap into her talents. So when this was finished, of course, she was one of the first people that we thought of. And thankfully, she responded to the material. It was great to work together again. And I'm so happy that she's getting the notice that she's getting for this movie, because I knew that her range as an actress was basically knew no bounds. So she completely owns this role, and it's just amazing in the movie. It's incredible.
Yeah. And I'm curious, do you have any insight just in the casting? Do you have any insight into the casting in general? I know you also had Johnny Knoxville in this film. He's, obviously well known and well regarded in, comedy or whatever. And I get emails all the time for specific people. Do you have any insight into the casting of Johnny Knoxville? How this script got to him and eventually got him signed on to it?
With both of my films, I've really been so fortunate to get such great cast. And during the X, we got Anton Yelchin. It was one of his last movies, doing some Twilight. In this one, we got Alexandra Daddario, we got Johnny Knoxville, Maddie Hasson, who's going to be a huge, huge star. But first and foremost, they really responded to the script, and they wanted to play these characters. They wanted to say this wild, outlandish dialogue that was actually not too far from what was being said around that time period about heavy metal and about what they believed to be these events. So it was a confluence of the screenplay, of getting a chance to work with our fantastic director, Mark Myers, who was coming off of an indie hit called My Friend Dahmer, and also just really great producers, Kyle Tequila, his partner Jared Einstein, Christian Armagida. It was just sort of that whole marriage of people wanting to bring this thing to life.
Yeah, perfect. How can people see We Summon the Darkness? Do you know what the release schedule is going to be like?
Yes, we're going to have as well as a VOD, but because of the pandemic that's going on, we are now going to be released on VOD and digital on demand April 10th, 2020. And I encourage everyone to go check it out. It's a really great time.
Perfect. And one last parting tip. We got a couple minutes left. You mentioned, the actors responding to the material. Give us a tip or two. How do you write those characters? How do you write that snappy dialogue that's going to get, high-level actors to respond?
Dialogue is one of the hardest things to write, and I've spent years and years and years honing it. My influences are people whose dialogue is a little bit more stylish and a little bit more, as you said, kind of crisp and snappy. My main inspiration in terms of writing dialogue is Daniel Waters, who wrote Heathers, as well as, of course, Quentin Aaron Sorkin. So basically, you just want to write dialogue that you would want to hear, that's not boring, that keeps the story moving. And if you can add a joke or two in there, I mean, go for it. Is there any sort of secret sauce? Not really. It's laugh, and just write something that you would be entertained by having an actor or an actress saying. And as I said, my influences are pretty wide-ranging, but when it comes to dialogue, I love what Daniel Waters did with Heathers. And
Perfect. Well, Alan, I really appreciate you coming and talking with me. Good luck with this film, and good luck on your next films as well.
Thanks, Ashley. I hope we get to talk again soon.
Perfect. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, Ashley. Bye-bye.
I just want to talk quickly about SYS Select. It's a service for screenwriters to help them sell their screenplays and get writing assignments. The first part of the service is the SYS Select Screenplay Database. Screenwriters upload their screenplays along with a logline, synopsis, and other pertinent information like budget and genre, and then producers search for and hopefully find screenplays they want to produce. Dozens of producers are in the system looking for screenplays right now. There have been a number of success stories come out of the service. You can find out about all the SYS Select successes by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/success. Also on SYS podcast episode 222, I talked with Steve Deering, who was the first official success story to come out of the SYS Select database. When you join SYS Select, you get access to the screenplay database along with all the other services that we're providing to SYS Select members. These services include the newsletter. This monthly newsletter goes out to a list of over 400 producers who are actively seeking writers and screenplays. Each SYS Select member can pitch one screenplay in this monthly newsletter. We also provide Screenwriting Leads. We have partnered with one of the premier paid Screenwriting Leads services, so I can syndicate their leads to SYS Select members. There are lots of great paid leads coming in each week from our partner. Recently, we've been getting 5 to 10 high-quality paid leads per week. These leads run the gamut. There's producers looking for a specific type of spec script to producers looking to hire a screenwriter to write up one of their ideas or properties. They're looking for shorts, features, TV, and web series pilots, all types of projects. If you sign up for SYS Select, you'll get these leads emailed directly to you several times per week. Also, you get access to the SYS Select forum, where we will help you with your logline and query letter and answer any screenwriting related questions that you might have. We also have a number of screenwriting classes that are recorded and available in the SYS Select forum. These are all the classes that I've done over the years, so you'll have access to those whenever you want once you join. The classes cover every part of writing your screenplay, from concept to outlining to the first act, second act, third act, as well as other topics like writing short films and pitching your projects in person. Once again, if this sounds like something you'd like to learn more about, please go to sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. Again, that is sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. On the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing filmmaker Darren Coyle. He has a new film out called Chasing Sunshine. We talk about how this film came together for him. He cast Trevor Pennick, who was in a boy band in the 90s called O-Town. So we talk about that process, how he was able to cast him in the film. He also did a crowdfunding campaign for this project, so we briefly talk about that as well. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. That's the show. Thank you for listening.